Cheers, mate. Thanks for helping me set up that 2-story jumping castle.
Mate, that is a task. It is impressive, but why are we doing this?
Oh, well, you know that fucking Benjamin down the road? Yeah, well, the other month he bought a trampoline, and he's been all the rage amongst all the people in the street. It's fucking going to get him back.
Oh, mate, you and Benjamin have been doing this for ages. You remember the time you got that above-ground pool? And then Benjamin went and got that 20-metre lap pool?
He's such a dick, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but there was that time he had all the neighbours around for just a roast, and you decided to bring a whole pig on a spit.
Or that time when he bought that like fancy ride-on lawnmower and ended up banging his wife.
Yeah, man, they ended up getting divorced after that.
Well, it showed him.
Well, not really. You ended up with bullet holes in the front of your house.
Yeah, but I got back at him by shitting his letterbox.
Oh, mate, this is never going to end. If evolution's taught me anything, this is going to go on forever.
Oh, well, can I shit his letterbox one more time?
All right, we'll go do that quickly. Come inside, and then we'll get to it.
Yeah, let's get to it.
How hard this was to research and try and sound genuinely like I was doing work.
Hey, man, so, look, I don't think you should really be going after your neighbour anymore.
Well, look, he's a dick. Benjamin is a dick.
But so are you. No, I wanted to talk about evolutionary arms races. I hope you can learn some lessons from biology here.
Okay.
From a few billion years of Benjamin Wade interactions. So we are going to be talking about evolutionary arms races today, which was a suggestion actually sent in by the Sci-gasm group.
Yeah, was it Frank Oleknowitz sent this one in?
I think so, yeah. So big shout out to Frank. Thanks for the idea.
Thanks for the idea. And
we'll get to your specific topic towards the end.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it.
If you'd like to become a Patreon member, just head over to patreon.com/Sci-gasm podcast. Just $1-2 a week. You can join the Facebook group. You'll get a shout out on the show. And you can even offer us suggestions like we have the last couple of episodes they've been from Sci-gasm members. So,
Get on board.
There's thousands of people out there listening to this podcast. Come on, help us out.
$1 each. We can afford to do some pretty amazing stuff with it.
Yep.
All right, back onto the show though.
Yes.
So, evolutionary arms races. So, like when people think of evolutionary arms race, you think of the sort of classic cheetah and gazelle thing,
Yeah.
If the cheetah's too slow to catch the gazelle, it will die, so only the fast cheetahs survive. Whereas the gazelles, they have to get fast enough and agile enough to avoid the cheetahs, and the slow ones die, so they're getting faster and faster and faster.
Natural selection. I don't understand why creationists have so much trouble with that.
I don't know. It seems pretty straightforward, doesn't
It
it?
is very straightforward.
Now, the specific name was proposed by Van Valen, who was a biologist, as the Red Queen hypothesis.
The Red Queen hypothesis. Okay, why Red Queen?
Why Red Queen? Have you heard of, Alice in Wonderland? There's and Alice Through the Looking Glass, those stories. So there's a bit in Alice Through the Looking Glass where Alice must be continually running in the same spot. Must be continually running to remain in the same spot. So you can imagine like she's running to a really strong wind. So if she stops, she goes backwards. She dies.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So that's the sort of the Red Queen hypothesis. And that's how the Van Valen decided to use this idea to describe how two co-evolving species must be constantly adapting to avoid extinction against each other. Which is pretty neat,
Yeah, it is. That is very interesting, actually.
It is. So I've got a few examples for us today.
Oh, cool.
Okay,
cool. I like examples.
A few Wade and Benjamins.
A few Wade and Benjamins, okay.
Right. Now, the first example I got are sea urchins and sea lilies. Now, everyone knows what a sea urchin is. You know what a sea urchin is?
Yes, it has a massive dick.
I have no idea about that. Are you sure I think of the barnacle?
I'm thinking of the barnacle. Sea urchins are the spiky kind of
They're
things,
the spiky bastards you don't want to
step on.
step on.
Have you ever tried a sea urchin?
I have. It was disgusting.
You hated it? I loved it.
Oh, really? I didn't like it at all.
Oh, so sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was salty as shit. I was like, no, I'm not handling this. That was the yellowy stuff, right? I had it in New Zealand, and I broke it apart, and no, didn't enjoy it. Didn't enjoy it personally. There's something else we disagree on, though, so that comes up really.
There you go.
How about that? Write that down.
Few and far between.
All right, now there is the sea urchin and another animal called the sea lily. Now, even though it's a lily, it's still an animal. Okay, now these guys have been co-evolving for, get this, hundreds of millions of years.
Well, it kind of makes sense, really, because I guess you could say that every species is evolving.
Yeah.
Because if you're alive, your species
You're
is
still evolving. I'm talking about with each other, though. This is coevolution.
okay.
So these two have been interacting, having an evolutionary arms race for about 200 million years it's been going on.
Was it Yosemite Sam? Is it Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny where they do that with the guns?
Oh, they
one
pull
was
a
a big
bigger
gun. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Itchy and Scratchy did it as well.
They did. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Now, this was... this study comes from your and my favourite publication.
Penis.
And this was in 2010, and they even followed it up in PNAS again in 2012. It was a University of Michigan study.
Would you say that we've been spit roasted by these studies?
One at the front, one at the back.
Yep.
Maybe. 2011 was, apparently.
Oh.
Now, what they found is they actually look at the paleontological record for these two species, and they noticed that there was this really strong correlation between the amount of families of sea urchin and sea lilies. Now, what they found is that sea lilies have actually developed the ability to move. They're usually a sessile species. They stay still, something like a coral. They don't move.
Yeah. Well, I know that, like, just even sea urchins, when you hold them, you can actually see them, like, kind of, like, pulsing a little bit.
Yeah, sea
that
urchins will
sounds really
wriggle.
bad,
That
doesn't
does
it?
sound bad. There's a few things I'll hold that might pulse a bit. But sea urchins, they can move. They'll crawl very slowly along the seafloor.
Really?
Sea lilies are sessile. Sea urchins, you know, there's little spikes. They actually have some of those spikes like legs, and they'll move and they'll
They
crawl
can't.
around the place.
The listeners can't see you doing hand actions.
Oh, okay. Well, they have little spikes.
You're
and
doing
they
it
move. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure our listeners have imagination.
He just made a really sarcastic face, listeners. Send your hate mail to admin@sci-gasm.com and
It's
I'll
a massive
be sure to
lie. I love
pass
all
on
you
them.
guys.
He did it again.
I did not. Now, what the researchers found is that as the number of sea urchin families increased, so did the number of sea lily families that could actually move. And what they found, there was also a relationship between the number of fossils they found and sessile, so they're the species that can't move, and bite marks from sea urchins.
Oh.
So if they couldn't move, they were more likely to have bite marks on them. And the ones
Wait,
that...
a sea urchin can bite me?
Yeah, have you never had a look at a sea urchin? They got a tiny little mouth with like 5 teeth around a circle. They're pretty cool. It's kind
Yes, I have seen
of,
that.
those round little teeth.
Yeah.
There's its little mouth.
So
and
can
have
they
to pass
hurt
stuff
you?
and
Like-
nom, nom, nom. Well, the spikes can. I don't know if the sea urchin could bite you.
Yeah. Have you ever had one of those sea urchin things stuck in your finger?
No, but apparently it's horrendously
Yeah, it
painful.
sucks, man.
You had one?
Yeah, I've got one stuck in my finger. You just bleed. Like, it just goes straight in. It's like, you're like, crap, and you pull it out, and then you just bleed.
You're just pissing blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Apparently it stings like a bitch. They've got little backwards facing barbs or something as well.
I've never had one, like, I've only been stung by, like, once or twice, but it wasn't, like, bad. My mate got stung by it really bad in the foot, and it's just
blew
out
up.
everywhere. Yeah.
Ugh, gnarly. Well, touch wood.
I was
don't
adamant
get
he
stung by
had
one of
his
those.
period, but he told me otherwise.
Out of his foot.
Yeah, out of his foot. Foot period.
God. Oh, you are not a biologist.
No.
Anyway, back onto this evolutionary arms race
Yeah.
between the urchin and the lilies. They found that there was the bite marks were more common on sessile species way back in the day when these sort of started to evolve together. And over time, they found that more mobile species of sea lilies started to evolve in response to the sea urchins that were moving.
Oh, cool.
So sea lilies actually evolved to run away, albeit very slowly. It would be the shittiest chase
oh
you've
my
ever
god,
seen.
that would just still better than Fast and Furious.
Yeah, that's right. Oh dear. No, what they also found, which made it interesting, was that the increase in diversity of sea urchin genus positively correlated with an increase in diversity of mobile sea lilies, but it also negatively correlated with the diversity in the sessile sea lilies. So the sea lilies that couldn't move were actually dying out.
Oh,
getting
okay.
replaced.
Well, there you go. So therefore, it's the ones that can move that will survive.
It's the evolution in action right
Yeah.
there. Yeah. And that was
What
from-
don't you get about that creationist?
How hard is
It's
it?
so easy to understand.
What
just
is
the
your
basics of it.
problem?
Yeah, I know. Oh god.
All right, now I've got a couple of other examples. So
All right,
I'm
cool.
going to save one to the end because I know you'll love it. I've got to save the best to last.
Okay, cool.
So I'll let you pick. Would you like to go a human example, or would you like to go another example from the animal kingdom?
Let's go human.
Human. All right. Now this one's kind of gross. Okay, so humans and
Oh, put it away.
That's right. Well, actually, no. Humans and this protozoan called a trypanosoma
Trypanosoma.
have been
Okay, yeah.
co-evolving. Now, trypanosoma is the cause of African sleeping sickness. You heard of that?
No.
So African sleeping sickness is a thing where people will fall asleep and they pass out, and it affects their brain, and they stop eating, and they stop interacting, and they effectively, they die over time. It kills you.
I mean, they start sleeping like
they're sleeping. They
wake up.
literally can't stay awake. They go into comatose states. They'll come to and fro, but they're not there. You know when you're really tired and you're out of it, and someone wakes you up and you just talk nonsense? They're kind of like that permanently if you've got this disease.
No,
it's
terrible.
a pretty horrific disease, to be honest. Now, this was published in the journal Parasitology in 2015.
Oh, not penis.
No, not penis, unfortunately. Do I have any more penis in this? No, there's no more penis.
Let's just end the show. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Well, I will say there's no penis in terms of the publication.
There's something coming that's big.
Now, this disease actually led to, I love this, the evolution of a few different proteins. One was called APOL1, and there was 2 TLF proteins, TLF1, TLF2. Not very creative names. But these 2 proteins are actually able to get onto the protozoan and rip apart their cell membrane. So it's something called lysis in biology terms. So they can pull the protozoan apart. Yep. So humans evolved to deal with this protozoan by destroying the protozoan cell, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool.
But this protozoan, recently they found 2 new strains of the protozoan which have a specialized gene which produces a special kind of glycoprotein, which is just a fancy type of chemical. But this chemical lives on the surface of the cell, on the cell membrane, and actually prevents it from being split apart by these proteins.
Yeah, so we must say as well that evolution doesn't work. And if you just let me correct you here, Byrne, just in case the listeners know. I know he knows. Maybe. Don't know. You appreciate it. But it's not like something goes, I need to grow longer claws, so therefore I can survive. It's the ones that have the longer claws that survive. So, for instance, the ones that have the protein, the protozoan that have the protein on their membrane are the ones that are likely to survive.
That's right. And you've got to be...
They don't consciously think, I need to get this protein.
It's just the other ones that don't have the protein get eliminated, and that gene becomes more common.
Yeah.
Okay, now what I think is really cool is that this prevents the cell membrane from splitting. So there's these 2 strains that have now arisen that have this particular glycoprotein, these 2 protozoans that are actually resistant to the human-produced proteins that are able to split it, which is pretty neat. But now we've actually made observations of particular primate populations and human populations where these 2 protozoans lived, and these populations show an increased resistance to these new subspecies as well. We don't have a mechanism yet, but we've noticed they have increased resistance to them.
Interesting.
It is. So that is a great example of an evolutionary arm. So it's taken on a single-celled protozoan.
Absolutely.
Hope we win. That would be pretty shit.
Yeah, it would be. Then we'll go that terrible Planet of the Apes.
Terrible Planet of the Apes. Well, the apes are also developing some immunity to these guys too. So primates are affected by the sleeping sickness, not just humans, which is pretty neat.
That's when they're going to get us.
When we're sleeping.
Yep, when we're sleeping. That's when the apes will rise.
The apes.
Seriously, I was watching this documentary. It's a 3-part documentary series. It's called Planet of the Apes. You're going to see it at the movies, though. We can see the first 2 are available on DVD.
You're an idiot, Fetty.
Well, I'm just trying to line this up. People don't want to hear about biology. They want to hear about physics.
How is Planet of the Apes physics related?
Well, I'm trying to just liven it up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a protozoan.
Well, I think that's pretty fucking interesting. Sleeping sickness in humans.
It is.
I know you're just being nice. Now you're just being facetious.
No. You're enough.
All right. Well, look. Let me go to another example. This one I like as well, but that's because it's moths and bats. But I love bats. Bats are fascinating
this
animals.
Terrible.
Oh, shut up! It is not. Now, this has been going on for a while. So this is a great backwards and forwards here. So. Firstly, bats are not blind. Let me say that right now. Bats are not blind. They see really well.
Last night, I got shit on by a bat.
You didn't?
I got shit on by a massive fruit bat.
Oh, no. Really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was leaving my mum and dad's place. They live up the coast. So Central Coast, about an hour north from Sydney, and they're on the beach. And there's a lot of bats and stuff around National Park. And I'm going in the car, and I just hear these kind of things rustle. I hear this. Oh my, that's a big bat, Yeah. So I look up, boom, bang, side of my forehead.
And were you like, you flying fucks?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, flying fucks. And I came back in, and I'm like, I was like, is everything all right? Why haven't you left yet? And I'm like, I got shit on by a bat. And my whole family go, ah! So I'm not speaking them anymore. So go on.
Yeah. No, these aren't the big fruit bats. These are the micro bats. So they're the moth hunters.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they're not blind. They see really quite well. But the thing is, if you're like hunting in caves, even if you have really good night vision, there is no light in there anyway. So bats evolved echolocation.
Yeah.
Now, this is a physics thing. Would you like to lighten us up on what the hell echolocation is?
Okay, so well, if you know this, so like a wave, okay, so the sound wave, for instance, if you produce a sound, then you can actually detect by the way that sound comes back how far something is away, judging by the noise that you're putting out there. Now, bats... So... Yeah, it's like when you go to a mountaintop and you scream, well, in Australia we go cooey like that, and you hear it come back. Well, if you actually look at the bounce goes, so it goes away, comes back, so you can speed equals distance over time. So
you can work out how far
away
it is.
Exactly. You know that sound travels about 340 meters a second in air, so then the time taken to come back is say 3 seconds. So that's 1.5 away. Speed equals distance over time. You find the distance by going speed times time will give you the distance.
Easy.
That makes sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very, very simple. And so the way it works is that they can get an image of their surrounding by that. Now, interestingly with bats, take a knee, Byrne, take a knee. They've actually done studies with bats where they actually will put like glass down. And bats, when they'll turn off like the lights and they'll mimic like a cave environment, bats actually think that's water and they'll go to drink the mirror because of the echo coming from the flat surface.
Ah, okay. Because it's so perfectly flat.
So perfectly flat, so that they think that it's water, and as opposed to it being rocky terrain where they'll get waves coming back that may be superimposed. So superposition is where you get waves adding on or taking away from each other, and it kind of like creates like a static.
Yeah, that was a bit. I'm glad I asked you to do that explanation of echolocation. That was a lot easier for me, and I think that was better than I was going to do.
You're welcome.
All right, now, this echolocation happens at, like, really high frequencies. Usually, most of the bats are way too high frequencies for humans to hear, so we don't hear this happening.
Ultrasound, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
50 kilohertz?
And up.
20
kilohertz, I think, is where we max out as humans, but
then
bats go up
that.
to, like, 200 kilohertz,
yeah,
some of them.
Crazy.
Some ridiculous frequencies. But we can't hear them, so it's not surprising if you see little bats flying around, you can't really hear them.
Do you know what the benefit of having such a high frequency noise is? You can actually get a better picture of your environment because you're using smaller waves. Same things with
like
electron microscopes and stuff, and using kind of certain wavelengths and stuff like that. The shorter the wavelength, the more detailed image you can get.
Oh, that is cool. See, look, bats are fucking rad. That's awesome.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, now, what's really amazing when you look at the moth side of things, so the bats have that certain frequency, and that helps them find the moth, and that's how they hunt in real dark places.
Yeah.
Okay, moths have actually evolved to hear sounds at this frequency, and these sounds can actually trigger evasive maneuvers. So have you seen a moth fly? They look like they're pretty shitty flyers, right?
Yeah.
They're actually not. They're actually really clever, and most of those maneuvers they're doing are evasive because they're reacting to sounds in their environment, and that keeps them alive. So they're actually really quite good flyers, weird little stunt flyers.
Yeah.
Now, some bats, again, have evolved the next step, I suppose you'd say, in the evolutionary arm rate and created, like, stealth echolocation.
Whoa.
It's weird. So there's an aerial hawking bat in Europe which sends out sound waves that are inaudible to all the moths. And one species produces frequencies which are about 100 times lower than all the other bats in the area. So all the other bats can't find the moths. They're doing their evasive maneuver thing, and this other bat sneaks up on them because the moths can't hear them.
Could you imagine if it was like Matt's couldn't hear it? It'd be like hear this. Like, did you hear something? No, sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Fucking mathematicians. Yeah. Now, this is where I reckon evidence for evolution comes in real tight with these evolutionary arms races. Cool. Okay, so if we go and have a look at particularly moths in North America, they have hearing ranges usually below about 50 kilohertz. Have a guess what range the frequency of bats in that region use?
51 kilohertz.
Usually below. So the moths have evolved to hear the particular bats, right? So they're trying to make sure they're not going to get eaten. Now, if we go local, Aussie, Australian bats usually use echolocation above 50 kilohertz and even up to about 100 kilohertz even.
Oh, wow.
Guess what the hearing range of the moths in Australia is?
I'm going to say 50 to 100 kilohertz.
Yeah, about that.
So it's like a battle going on. So the moths are able to hear the sound, and then they go a little bit creeping up and up. Or it could be
or even lower.
Around.
Yeah, they creep up and lower. So some will get lower and some bats will get higher. And there's special cases of bats all over the world where they're a little bit higher than the average and a little bit lower than the average, and they tend to be more successful hunters and things like that.
That's cool.
It is. It's pretty amazing. So there are even some moths which have gone their own little style of arms race. There's a tiger moth which has evolved like a two-pronged defense warning system. Firstly, they make their own little clicking sound, click, click. So when the bat flies in, they hear another sound. They'll make their own echolocation, but then they'll also hear the moth's clicks. And you think that would be a huge disadvantage, right? You're just basically going, yeah, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here, come get me.
I'm guessing it scatters their perception of...
Not at all. It tells the bat exactly where they are.
Wait, you're saying the moths produce a click as well?
Yeah, the moths produce the sound as well. So the bats will find them with their echolocation, and then the moths say, yeah, come get me, I dare you. And these moths have actually evolved this horrible taste. Bats will only ever eat this moth once in their life. And then after that, this taste, and they're kind of poison as well. They won't kill bats, but they're poison. Once the bat eats one of those moths, it will not go near the tiger moth again. And they can release hundreds of moths, and they've got footage of bats flying in, hearing the click from that tiger moth and veering away, avoiding it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Because I thought maybe it was like, if they all clicked, it would scatter the, what's happening.
That was the hypothesis they had initially, but then they thought, like, why don't the bats sneak up on them, the ones outside their frequency? Where the frequencies wouldn't have a problem.
Really bad.
Because they taste like shit. Yeah, apparently so. Yeah. Which is pretty neat, right?
Yeah, that is cool.
That is
cool.
a nice little arms race.
No.
Backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how do you feel about your neighbour Ben now?
Oh, he's still a dick.
He's still a dick? Yeah. All right. I'm glad you said that.
It's about dicks, isn't it?
It's about dicks.
Yes!
All right. So this was the particular suggested, sent in by Frank. This is about ducks' dicks.
Ducks' dicks.
So most people aren't really aware ducks have penises, and some of them are fucking impressive.
Oh, the Argentinian lake duck, man.
That is a solid dick.
That is a massive cock.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, most birds don't have dicks, okay? I should stress that. It's kind of unusual if you're a bird and you've got a dick. And when I say bird, I mean like the avifauna. I'm not talking a colloquialism for a female.
And we're cool with that.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Now, there was this one study out of Yale which was published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society in 2010. There was a follow-up in 2013, and then there was a follow-up in 2017, which is a lot of studies about ducks' dicks. There is an amazing amount of data about duck penises out there.
I'm interested. Wouldn't the researchers be interested?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so, but it's one of those things where, like, at what point does it get creepy? Like, it's really interesting to research, but how much research do you need to do on duck dicks before you go...
I can imagine one of those researchers, right? They'd be out, like that'd be a dinner party, right? And say if their research is in duck sticks, they'd be like, so what do you study, David? Oh, well, I'm looking at the reproductive processes of ducks and how they interact with one another and the mating processes involved in that, so we get a better understanding of their evolution. Oh, that sounds delightful. Then they go to their pub with the mates. They're like, what do you study? I study duck sticks. I spend all day looking at dicks, motherfuckers. Because that's exactly what I'd do if I studied duck sticks.
I think we would. I would be totally... No, the thing was, they actually had a funding crisis because someone in the US Congress pointed out, this was a nationally funded study, I should point out, about duck
awesome.
Sticks. And someone in Congress basically said, why are we spending money on this study? Which is, I suppose that's Congress's job, is to point out these things, but what actually happened was it brought to light all the information in this study. This guy basically dug up a study that he thought was stupid to spend money on, and it actually popularized it. So they ended up getting more funding for it.
That's awesome.
So while they scrapped funding early, it ended up going back in because they realized the benefits of studying duck wangs.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, hell. Now, what they actually found this study in Yale is that a bunch of males hanging out together may have led to larger penis sizes. Which is weird.
The whole locker room mentality.
Yeah, that also explains why your wife keeps telling you to go out and hang out with the boys, I guess.
That's because she hates me.
Now, oh dear. Now, what the authors had previously found, because remember I told you there was a few different studies of duck dicks here, so it's been revolutionizing the field.
Good
they
on
actually
them.
found that forceful males, so, the more rapey ones, and also less dominant individuals, so the ones...
more rapey ones?
Yeah, there are duck rapists.
Really?
Yeah, there are.
What, like human duck rapists or duck rapists?
No, duck rapists.
No,
yeah.
good.
So male ducks raping females. And they also found that less dominant males, so the ones who can get the shit kicked out of them by other males, So rapey males and less dominant males generally have bigger dicks.
Interesting.
It is. Now, they reckon that's because they need to take advantage of fewer mating opportunities. So if you're a bit rapey, you're not spending much time with girls. Like, not many girls want to hang out with a rapist.
Okay? I don't think anyone wants to hang out with a rapist.
No, well, yeah, fair. But when you're a duck, you got to get in while you can. So a bigger dick will help that. If you're a less dominant male, you're more likely to get shooed away by the more dominant male. So a bigger dick means that you don't have to get as close and you can take a quick advantage.
Okay. So once again, it comes back to it's not the size of the boat, it's the motion in the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently so. Now, females, ducks, apparently like every female, doesn't really enjoy being raped. Okay? So what's actually happened? Have you ever seen a duck penis?
I thought you said it was in a duck being raped. I've been some weird place on the internet, but not there.
I've never dwelled in those corners.
No, have I ever seen ducks mating? No, I have not.
No, so ducks actually have like a corkscrew-shaped penis.
Oh, well, I've seen the Argentinian
It's a bit
lake
twisty.
duck stick.
Have you seen it? It's kind of twisty.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, well, how's this? Females in these species, the rapey species, have actually evolved vaginas which twist the other way, which means like these giant dicks can't get into the vagina and rape them, and then they're not going to produce young with these people. So it's actually providing a selective pressure against rapey males with big wangs.
Oh, God.
Yeah, which is, I guess, a good thing.
I guess so.
Yeah. Now, that kind of makes this whole arms race really interesting, is that there's all this duck dick sizes. There's so much dick in this end of this. I'm just making up for the lack of dick jokes. All right, now the duck dick sizes are not dictated by female selection here, which is rare. Usually what happens is female mate selection or male choices is what dictates, or promiscuity is another thing that usually dictates the size of genitals. So how promiscuous the species is, how often they have sex with females, usually leads to a bigger dick. In this case, though, it's
you must still be a virgin then.
Wait. Oh. Unless you're a duck. And you're like, hey.
What does that mean?
What's going on? If you're a virgin as your duck, you could... I don't know. I realised I could be calling myself a rapist there, so I slammed on the brakes.
A duck rapist. Yeah, it's like, not unless you're a duck, I'm a virgin. It's like, oh, man.
Oh, dear. No, so what the selective pressure here is more arising from the mating strategies between males. So if you're rapey, you're going to get a big wang, or if you're a bit,
shy.
Yeah, or if you're trying,
shoot one from long, do a Hail Mary.
Yeah, if you're trying to get it done quickly, you're probably going to have a big wang. That's what it boils down to. Now, generally speaking, we show that over history, if we look at the history of all these different species, like I said, most birds don't actually have dicks. They've evolved a need not to have dicks, which means it's really hard to rape if you're a bird without a wang, because you can't really connect and hold them there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
can we stop using the word rape?
Shall we call it a forceful mating?
Forceful mating. I'm much more comfortable with forceful mating.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's still like semantics.
Just keep using rape.
Now, generally speaking, what we find is that it's the females and the forceful mating males generally lose out with mate selection, and ultimately the main deciding factor, which explains why most birds don't have dicks, is the fact that the female will choose the mate that's more likely to care for the young.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
So duck dicks could be getting smaller, but there's this converse pressure where males are competing against each other to make these huge, outrageously huge duck dicks.
Yeah, massive cocks.
I'd encourage our listeners to go and look up some of these Argentine lake duck, for example, because it is a sight to behold.
It is amazing. It's so impressive.
Yeah.
It's just like, good on you.
Yeah, it's no barnacle.
It's no barnacle, but hey, it's a very good effort. Yeah.
Well, how's that? Evolutionary arms races going on all over the place. From dicks to sleeping sickness.
Yeah, wow.
Are you think you're going to leave your neighbour alone now, Wade?
Nah. No, I'm going to give him that African sleeping thing.
In fact, you're hitting some Vindaloo tonight to really sort out that mailbox.
I'm going to enter a dick measuring contest with him.
What if yours is bigger, though? Surely that reflects poorly on you after the discussion we just had.
Well, I'll just say it's because I'm more... Oh, yeah. Well, I'll put an ice pack on it before we do it. Check out this.
That's right. Going out to pubs. Look at this, girls.
Yeah. Dominant.
Dominant, not rapey.
Yeah, not rapey, dominant. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that, Byrne. That was a interesting episode with a lot of mentions of words I'm not really comfortable mentioning that much of, except dick. But I think you should maybe next time just ease up on the rape discussion in the podcast.
That. Don't put it that way.
Well, I said discussion in the podcast.
Okay, yeah, I guess so.
It's forceful mating.
Forceful mating.
Yeah,
I don't literally mean rape.
no, you're talking about two. Yeah,
But it kind of is though. I have a problem saying it's not rape. 'Cause it is.
Look,
I don't want someone to go to court. Go, it wasn't a rape. It was a forceful mating. For example,
that's
you're a rapist and you're
you're
gross.
a piece of shit if you fucking rape anyone.
Yeah.
All right, ugh, disgusting. On that note, you can become a Patreon.
If you'd like to support this high-quality enterprise, please become a Patreon on patreon.com/Sci-gasm podcast, or you can go on patreon.podbean/Sci-gasm podcast. I think there's a .com in there as well, actually.
You can, if you're using Podbean, you can actually just click be a patron. Also, thank you for those people who have supported us so far on the Patreon account. As you know, we've listened to your requests. We're continually in contact with you, and we appreciate all the advice and just all the episode suggestions, just interesting information and stuff like that. Like, we get sent some really cool stuff, and so if you'd like to become a member of the Sci-holes, by all means, jump in and give us episode suggestions. You might get an episode. The last 3 episodes we've done have been requests.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting, good requests. So check it out. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, sci-gasm.com. And thank you very much for joining us. Much love.
Bye.
Wade.